up. And then the second half, as we talked about, is going to go into SharePoint. So my name is Jeff Suen. I am the product manager for Microsoft Dynamics SL, proud as I am. Been working with Dynamics SL for about 16 years or so. I started off in the consulting area, so I have implemented SL starting back in 2006 and on, and worked in the Microsoft consulting arena for Dynamics SL before I moved to marketing, where I still stand. To my left is Carolyn Froten. Carolyn, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Carolyn Froten, as Jeff noted. I've been working with SL and Solomon for the last 15 years. I started as a support engineer, mostly on the distribution modules in version 206, and moved my way over into the environment aspect of things. I've been very fortunate to avoid the financial and project modules. However, I don't think that will last very long, since now I'm also wearing the consultant hat as well. So,
excellent, excellent. All right, and again, obviously, what we're going to talk about today is SharePoint. SharePoint has many different, lots of different functionality. We always seem to kind of go back to the basic needs of SharePoint and the ability to share information. So whether that's documents, being able to put them in a central location. When we work on our PowerPoint presentations for these conferences, having a place to put our documents so we can all get to them, update them, and so forth, and have a common location. Very nice graphical interface, and they continue to enhance it, and Carolyn will be showing for that as well. So again, that's what we're going to focus on. As I said already, we're going to focus first on those SL features that use SharePoint right away. Now, as a kind of side point, just since we're talking about SharePoint, one of the things that has been announced is going to be released later this month, and I know I'm not to confuse us all, but I just want to start off with this, is one of the things that we already have out there is the business portal. And actually, I'm jumping ahead on a point, aren't I? Yes, I am. Yeah. I'm glad I want to do this. I'm going to sidestep in there. So one of the things we're going to focus on is on the SharePoint items, and I'll get back to that point. I apologize. We'll get back to the system requirements. What does it take in SL that you need to have set up? Then we're going to spend another chunk of time on SharePoint 2013, and again, the custom uses of SharePoint that you can use them for. So let's start off with the Dynamics SL SharePoint features. What does Dynamics SL today in SL 2011 use that SharePoint can be used for? The first item that we can use is out of Dynamics SL is the DocShare feature. How many people familiar with DocShare? Okay, then I will be happy to explain the functionality. So the idea of DocShare came about is that people have items like purchase orders, invoices, project invoices, construction billings, and so forth. And what happens is usually in the standard processes of what we've done for all of our lives is, of course, you go ahead and you print those out. You print those out, you put those into a filing cabinet. The filing cabinet's somewhere down the hallway, lots of space taken up, okay, but you have that information and it's stored back there. So if anybody wants to know about that invoice, a lot of times they'll go back, try to find the document stored way back somewhere else. So it takes a lot of time to be able to go ahead and store that information, print it out, and then when you have to search for it, it's not very fun. Well, you might be saying, but Jeff, that's okay. You know, all I've been doing now is we've just been doing a save as, so whenever I have an invoice, I save it as, and I store it somewhere locally in my machine, and hopefully I remember that I should probably put it up somewhere else so someone can see it or not.
And hopefully your hard drive doesn't go.
Exactly. Hopefully I don't lose that information. So the idea of DocShare is that we wanted to create a repository where you could automatically, with the click of a button, take important documents like invoices and purchase orders, and with a click of a button, you don't have to think about it. It will automatically store it in a location. So for example, if in the purchase order screen, it's going to store it in my vendor's specific SharePoint location and have that information sitting out there. Now, when everybody wants to go and say, hey, I wanted some information about their purchase orders, I want to see a printout of them, you don't have to let them jump into Dynamics SL and go ahead and print out a copy. They can go right into this SharePoint site, which is what we're calling DocShare, which is just storing. And let me take a step back. DocShare is just using SharePoint to automatically store those documents. So with that, we give a common location. People can get to the information. Many times what happens when you start using DocShare is we're going to create a site for each of your vendors, is that you can go beyond the basics. So now you can use that to store documents. Maybe you're going to use it for storing customer correspondence. Maybe we can just use it to store emails that we've had with the customers, documents, scanned documents, whatever you have. You can start using that SharePoint site or that DocShare site for many things more than just doing that. Out of the box with Dynamics SL 2011 Feature Pack 1, these are the documents that we have automated through the DocShare process. Invoices, statements, ships, confirmations, order management for our customers. We're storing purchase orders for our vendors and also project documents, things like construction billing and flexible billing invoices for our project documents. So these are the ones that come with the product out of the box. Now, we also include with Dynamics SL 2011 and 2011 Feature Pack 1, we also include a toolkit. What this toolkit will allow you to do is if you are a developer or have someone in-house that can do this, you can actually use this toolkit to build your own DocShare. So let's say you wanted to not only keep track of purchase orders and store them up on a DocShare site, you could also do receipts. And it gives you the code and the understanding and the information on how can you extend that beyond the basics. So let's take a quick look, if I can get it to click, over at DocShare and see how does this actually work in Dynamics SL. All right. So what we have right here on your screen is I am in Dynamics SL, and I am going to pull up the customer maintenance screen. Let's hide this real quick. All right. So pulling up the customer maintenance.
C300.
C300, she says I should pick. All right, very good. I'm going to pick C300.
Bingo.
If I did pick it, I think I picked it. Yep. So we pick up that particular customer. Now, this is the same process that I'm going through here is something you can do in the vendor maintenance screen as well as in the project maintenance screen. So if you notice, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, once things are set up for DocShare, you have two little icons at the top of your screen. The first icon becomes enabled once you've got things set up in DocShare or set up and are ready to go. We'll talk about what that is in a second. But on the practical side, what's going to happen is you have this button, and what it enables you to do is to go ahead and automatically create a SharePoint site. What this will do for you is you have three different options. You have an option one. Well, Jeff, we haven't started using SharePoint. We just installed it. Yes, we would like to create a SharePoint site for this customer, and that's the very first check or radio button that you see on the screen. So that's one over here on the left. So I already click on that and click OK. It would create a brand new site for me for this customer. The next option right next to it is it wants to create a document library. We'll talk about these later when Carolyn is going through. But basically, instead of creating a brand new site for every single customer, it will create one site and basically create little sub-sites for all your different customers, an easier way. Some people prefer that way to store their data. Great, we're happy about that. The last option is that, hey, Jeff, you know what? DocShare is new to us, but we've been using SharePoint for a long time. We've had SharePoint in-house. This is great. We already have a site for all of our customers. Would you mind allowing us to point to an existing site that we already have out there? And that's what that last option is. It says, yep, we already have it. We're going to give you the URL, tell you where to point to, and so forth. So those are your three options when you go ahead and create your when you create a new SharePoint site for somebody. Yes, question.
So we've got SharePoint for Business Portal, but we also have a separate SharePoint farm. Can we use this to go to a SharePoint site and a separate SharePoint farm?
Yes.
So the question was, I know why, you have SharePoint for your business portal, and you also have a separate SharePoint farm. Does SL only work with the SharePoint that's for business portal? The answer is no. It can be used for any place, any location that you currently have. Great question. Great question.
Yes.
So, good question. The question is, I see that there's a button there that will go ahead and allow me to go ahead and create the sites. Is it automated out of the box? The answer is no. The way it is built right now is it will pull up this screen to allow you to choose that and then click OK, and then it will automatically create the site for you, but we want to give you a chance, and that's what we're going to talk about next, the different options that you can do. But you're right, out of the box, it's going to go to this screen first and let you click OK to be able to take it to the next. That is a very good question. That is a very good, talk to us. It's a very good question. The question on the mic was, can we automate this? So yes, let's check that out. There's probably a way to do that because but we can talk to the right people about that. Very good question though. The next is you see the URL, which we're already linking to an existing site. That's why it's populated, but it would automatically default to populate that for you, and we'll show you where it gets that information from. Then if you want to get specific and change the title of the location or the description of it, you can get into that as well. And then down below in this particular type for customers, you saw that we have 5 different type of documents that we support. So you can turn it on and off. Say, yep, I only want to use invoices. I don't want to use these. You can turn it on and off as you automatically start creating your site. So you have that functionality. Now, once you go ahead and click OK, again, in this case, we've already created the site just for speed on this image here. The next button that you have right next to it is basically a way just to get to that site. So if someone wants to check out and see what that site looks like, clicking on that button will bring up the SharePoint site. There we have the basic SharePoint site created. And if we go under accounts receivable, we'll see that we've already have some documents that have been put out there. Now, how do you actually get documents out there? Real quickly. Whoops. I apologize. I just shrank your image. Sorry about that.
It's a great desktop, though.
Great desktop. I like that picture. All right. Let's go to the right place, Jeff. All right. So the next thing is, how do I, in accounts receivable, how do I get a document up there in the first place, Jeff? And let me open up the invoice and memo screen, which I think I did, but I think I clicked too fast. Oh, there it is. All right, so when I go into the invoice and memo screen, once I have this company set up, which as you said was the School of Art. All right, that's fine. You're a demo database. I'm okay with that. All right, and then I start putting information into here. Let's put some values in here. And I save it.
Required fields.
Oh, did I miss something? I apologize. Oops, thank you. All right. Yes. My eyes are going. I cannot see. All right, so now that we have that, yep.
Sorry.
We should have enabled, let's see, why are we not seeing it here? It's saved, but for some reason, yeah, but it should allow me just to automatically save it. I apologize. Oh, I have to release it. Yeah. I'm used to working the vendor screen. So sorry, my bad. If we were to release this batch and let it process, then what would come up next is it would enable, I apologize, I'm used to doing this in purchasing, which it's always enabled. This Publish to SharePoint button would be enabled. Again, I apologize. Clicking that button, all it does is it's going to take our report for an invoice and automatically create it and put it up. And as Carolyn already has loaded on there, we've done this already in the past in a previous demo, so this will take us right to the site, and we can see those documents. So in the invoice and memo screen, obviously it's going to require that you put the batch in, release it, and get it ready before you send it up. In the purchase order screen, as long as it's in a purchase order status, it's going to go through. And when you're doing the invoice and memo, when you're doing the invoice generation process in project, if you are set up in here that this customer is involved in that and that we have a DocShare site up, it will automatically do it. But you have some options there to actually turn it on and off and say, I don't want to send this and so forth. So from a DocShare side of place, again, the requirements are that you have a customer site or a vendor site or a project site set up automatically, and that enables the button at the bottom of the screen to be able to send those documents up there. So again, in the purchasing screen, in the invoice and memo screen, it is the click of a button that sends it. In the screen, like when you're doing flexible billings, that process actually is automated and will automatically send them up there. So some great examples of how you can send your information from Dynamics SL up to a SharePoint site. Any questions on that? Yes?
Is there a way to get it so that you publish draft invoices?
Right now it is not. It does not do that. But let's talk on this after online because I wonder if the SDK we could use to go ahead and create your draft and put some up there as well. Okay. We could look into that as well. Now, as far as the setup, what do I need to do first in the SharePoint site configuration? And under administration is this SharePoint site configuration screen where we can define for each customer, for the vendor, or for the project, where is the root site? Meaning, where do you want to start putting things? This is where you're talking about, can I put it to a different server? This is where we would go first and tell it, this is where I want you to put all of my customer type of entries. And that might be on one server farm. You could define it for the vendors. We like to put, for some reason, we like to put our vendors on a completely different server. And we like to put our project information on a completely different server. Here's where we set up the default information. So when I clicked on that button earlier, it had automatically defaulted to that location. This is where it looked. It looked right here to find out that information. Yes, sir? Very good. We're going to get into that. But yes, it can be a SharePoint Online. If you're running Dynamics SL 2011, it's either Feature Pack 1. Yeah, Feature Pack 1. If you're running that version of it, yes. That was added with Feature Pack 1 is that it actually, you got one of my points already, thank you, is that it will work with SharePoint Online, which is an enhancement that was made with the Feature Pack. So great question. So again, the first process is to define your URL where you want everything to default to. The next is to tell us, do you want us to automatically create a site as the default thing to pop up on your screen, or do you want the whole document library? We talked about the differences, whether you're creating a separate site for everybody or one site for all your customers with this little sub-sites underneath it. Down below, under the default site library creation options, enable default creation, prompt for new entry, or disable. The default creation means that it will automatically create your sites every time you create. So I'm sorry, there's your answer. Where's my, right there. There's your answer. You could set it up that every time. You may want that, you may not. That means that anytime a person goes into the customer or vendor maintenance screens and starts setting up a customer, it's going to create it.
I'd like it for a project, not for the rest.
Yes. So you have the option.
Jeff?
Perfect.
I think a perfect example of a site that would want that functionality is if they are going to have a customer or vendor that's going to be accessing that site to see their own reports, because it's going to be easier to set up the permissions on a site basis than it is on that particular document library.
Very good point. Very good point. That's a good reason why to use site as well. Again, here's your options of what you want to do. Do you want to constantly prompt people that you've created a customer? Do you want to create your SharePoint site or your DocShare site? And then the last one is to not prompt them at all. Again, you can set up your defaults right here to whether you want to be able to give the defaults to turn on for invoices or AR statements. And then the last option is the file types. What that means is when people publish a document up to DocShare, what do you want it to be shared as? A Word document, most times you're going to be in some type of PDF or other type of file. But you have those options to choose what the defaults do. Of course, when you go into the customer or vendor project maintenance screens, they can change them if they want to, but these are going to be your defaults. All right, again, here are all the different formats we were talking about. PDF, Word, Excel, whatever you want to put it up there. Whatever works best for you. Now, one of the things about DocShare is that there is a limitation, is that it only works on those specific reports in specific areas. So the next thing people came to us and said, that's really great, but can you open this up to other areas of Dynamics SL? So what we've done is we've created a feature called Upload to SharePoint. Now, Upload to SharePoint, what this does is basically anytime you can get to the ROI screen or the report screen, you have the option now, instead of printing it out, of uploading a report right up to a SharePoint site. So it will take that and do that. And I think we're going to quickly show you a demo of that, aren't we? Do we have a report open?
Easily opened.
She will open up a report. Okay, so while she's opening up the report for me, again, all you need to be on this is an SL 2011 FP1 to get this functionality. Secondly, you need to have, obviously, SharePoint set up and configured for you. The next is we're going to run a specific report, and we're going to walk through right here once our image wakes up and starts moving. There we go. So the difference here with this particular process is when you want to do it, you're going to drive for me? Even better.
I'll
I like
drive
this
for you.
better. Okay, so the first thing is you click on Printer Options. Once you click on Printer Options, it's going to bring up, and there's a new option that says Upload to SharePoint. Once I do that, I need to click on the Setup button, and it's going to say, okay, what do you want to save it as? This is kind of the standard interface. text is fine, we're okay, but do you have the other options that you had before? Sure, we'll put it in a PDF. The next is going to say, where do you want to put this file? Well, out of the box, you may or may know where it is, but most of the time, you're going to use this recent location. So we can go ahead and choose a recent location and put it in there. Now, another option, just to show them, if you want to do an F3 again for me. Yes. You also have a search capability. So if you have no idea, you can put in the base URL of where you're looking, which is, if you can think of it, that's fine. You don't have to type it in. But you can put in the base, and what it will do is it will search. Once I give it, I want you to search under this site location, it will search that whole location and find any valid document library that already exists out there. If it finds it, it'll be in a drop-down list. You'll choose it and get to it. So,
Nope.
All right, that's fine. It has to be that whole Bob thing. So, all right, so then go ahead and choose, do an F3 and choose that existing one, just for our purposes. All right, we got that. Click OK. It's just validating that it is a good place that you can put things. Click OK again. And you'll notice that now the screen has changed. Instead of saying print, it just says upload. So now for the end user, all they need to do is click on upload. It's taken that document and any type of the format that you have, and now it's going to head and put it up there to your SharePoint site. As easy as that. Again, there is no limitation on that. That can be in any report. And all you need to do is on SL 2011 Feature Pack 1. Yes? File naming, it is using it's a pre-format. Do you have one of those? I'm trying to remember how they store it as.
Yeah, that I don't have on here.
You don't? Okay. It does have a pre-format. I think it has the ID of the report plus a date timestamp built into to make it a unique ID. I don't think at this time it is friendly, so to speak. It's not going to give it the full name of it, but I think it's just more ID and name and date. Right now you cannot, but I think that would be a great option to request. You guys know that there are 2 sessions tomorrow on product suggestions. Just a little prompt for that. 2 good sessions where you can give some great feedback on, hey, this is great, but I'd love to be able to change it. All right. What's my next thing that we're going to talk about? All right. Oh, the last one we'll talk about is document attach. I think it's the last one. One of the things that people ask for inside of Dynamics SL is the ability, it's very simple. I can do it in some other products, very simple products. All I want to do is be able to attach backing documents to a Dynamics SL screen. So that's what we've been able to add, is the ability to take a document and attach it to it. And let's see, am I doing this? Clicking? Yep. So what will happen is any Dynamics SL screen that you're used to seeing that little icon right there, that guy right there, any screen that has it, whether it's at the header or at the detail level, which I don't know why that one doesn't have it. It's disabled, but it's right there. Any screen that has that will have the ability to attach a document to it. So that means that I can be in the, I can't read it, document maintenance screen, and I can take a document and say, this is the backing document for it. I do a right click on it, and we'll show you that in a second, and attach a document to it. Now, I guess I'm going to show you. With that, let's go ahead and pull up a Dynamics SL screen, any screen. All right. And let's pull up an existing, God, my eyes are getting bad. I can't see anymore. Okay, there we go. Hold. All right, and we want to go ahead. And the experience is that, again, we're used to that icon is just being used for just notes. This is where I keep my notes. I have additional information I want to keep. It's also used for adding attachments. So go down to the second option and choose attachment. Okay. All right, doesn't look like that is set up, which it was earlier, but hey, we will switch over here. And give me a second because I think I have a nice little picture here. And this is why you always come prepared. Okay, so you're inside your document maintenance screen. And again, this will come down where, again, we're used to notes. We have this attachment option. What will happen is it will pop up, and this screen will appear. Now, how you get data into it is under the upload section. You can either do the standard Windows browse. I want to browse out to a directory, find the document, choose it, and attach it. Or, of course, the way that I prefer it is that you have the document right here. All you need to do is drag and drop it on top of there. Drag and drop works. What it's doing in the background, which we'll talk about in a second, it's taking that document, and it can do one of 3 different things. Again, another thing with the nice screen as well is once you click on a document, you can actually see a preview on the screen as well. So if I have multiple documents out here, I can click on them one at a time, and it's going to show me. So in this particular case, I'm seeing a document. It's giving me a nice preview of what's attached there. All right. God bless the backing up documents every once in a while. All right, so again, you can browse to a file. You can drag and drop. You can even link to an existing file. So for example, someone said they already have SharePoint installed. Maybe you already have your documents stored somewhere else, but you want SL to know about these documents. You can actually link to existing ones that are out there. Along with it, you can add some basic metadata, basically descriptions about what's in there if you like. Supports all different types of files, and you'll be able to upload them. So what we have in Dynamics SL right now is in 2015, and actually in SP2, you have the ability to go in, and the way that it works, it's going to ask you, where do you want to store documents? The first thing you're going to do, is, at least the way I use it, is you're going to set up default. Default just means that if what I could choose is that I want to store everything that's out there in one big repository. I don't care where it's going to be stored. I don't care by screen where it goes. I just like to create my own big repository, and something that we use a lot in demonstrations. But if I choose default, what that tells the system is that if I get to a screen and it's not specific to that screen, and I don't have any definition for that screen anywhere else, let me take a step back. Okay. When you're setting it up, you need to choose the screen and what the action should be. So if I chose like the journal transaction screen, I could say, well, all journal transactions need to be stored either in a DocShare site. It could be set up in a specific URL or SharePoint site that I already have out here, or it could even be in a UNC encoded path. So it could be a network drive. Don't need to have SharePoint for this, but we want it, a lot of times it is used, so we wanted to talk about that. So the first process is I could go through and set up every single screen in SL and say, this is where I want to put it. Now, the other option is to use the idea of default. My default, we're not worried that journal transactions attachments are stored in this location and accounts payable are here, and we're not worried about that. We just want the documents to be stored somewhere. So your other option is to choose default. That means you don't have to go through every screen and set them up. It also will be, if you decide to do a combination of both. Well, journal transactions, I definitely want stored over here, but everything else can go anywhere else. So you have that ability to just set up the journal transaction screen one way, and it will default to using the default settings for everyone else. So I apologize. I took a step back there because I didn't like the way I was saying it. Hopefully it made a little more sense. And if it doesn't, let me know. As a 2015 type of, or actually 2013 item as well, one of the things that Pat showed you was the ability to attach a document to an expense report, which he showed you in the demonstrations yesterday on web apps. He probably showed you this as well. You have that same screen that's in SL is used to set up where you want to store things for your web services as well. You can be specific. Right now, the only thing you really can store it to today or when it releases will be for expenses, but in the future, you'll be able to specify different things to different locations. So you have that functionality. All right. Here's my business portal question. All right. So Business Portal also runs on top of SharePoint. As you told, we're not really doing a lot of new things with SharePoint, with Business Portal. We are definitely investing heavily in web apps, but I did want to bring up the fact that there is another thing that runs on SharePoint called the Business Portal. And the focus of it is, as you guys probably know, time and expense entry, setting up projects, item request entry, and so forth. So you have those type of items. Now, right now, as of this day right now, it only supports SharePoint 2010, which is probably the reason why someone told me they have 2 different installations of SharePoint, is that right now, as of today, it only supports running on SharePoint 2010. Coming at the end of this month, it will be able to run on top of SharePoint 2013 as well. That is new. Just as a side note for my IT people, it is actually a separate installation. So if you have the old SharePoint installation Business Portal code sitting over here, you cannot use that. The new code They do not mix. So the new code only runs on SharePoint 2013. The old code only runs on SharePoint 2010. So just as a point of interest for you guys. So again, that is being released later this month. Just as a side point, just to let you guys know for any of those that are currently using the business portal. All right, Carolyn, I think I've spoken enough. Can you take over, please? And they're done. Any questions on what we showed around any of those features? Do we like those features? Good features? Excellent. Yes, there's a question. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Going back to the screen before there,
yes.
You said it has support for 2013. Is it support for 2013 or incompatibility mode?
Thank you. Thanks for letting me finish, for reminding me to finish that. Incompatibility mode. So, yes, it's running in SharePoint 2010 compatibility mode. Very good question. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so what do I need to run all these cool new features? And Carolyn, take it away.
Okay. So basically, your system requirement guide is going to pretty much cover everything that you need to know. Of course, you've got your Windows Server 2008 64-bit. Since Business Portal runs on SharePoint 2010, it does need to be in 64-bit. For SL 2011, it is the only version that you can get is on 64. You cannot do a 32-bit for 2011. Nice thing, you've got Windows Server 2012, so if you like that Windows look for Windows 8, you can do Server 2012. You've got your SQL Server 2008 64 and 2008 R2. Your SQL Server 2012, be sure it's Standard or Enterprise Edition. When installing SharePoint, it does give you that option to install the SQL Express. That works great for SharePoint, but that is not going to work well for your SL, so you need to make sure that you watch that. Your your SQL Server 2012 native client relies on your Server 2008 R2 or 2008 SP2 or greater. Your software, SharePoint Foundation, which is free, will work beautifully with your business portal as well as your DocShare and your DocAttach. Or you can also get the SharePoint Server 2010. Same rings true for the Foundation 2013 and the SharePoint Server 2013. SharePoint 2010 and 2013 are 64-bit. So again, if you're currently running a business portal that's 32, you're going to have to completely move over into that 64-bit environment. A direct upgrade from, say, for example, SharePoint 2007, which is going to be for your older SL business portal implementations, R32, it's going to take a little bit of prep work. A lot of sites, what they choose to do is take the opportunity to kind of clean house at that point, remove old network users from their SharePoint as well as their business portal tables so that their new implementation has all their most current users, roles, permissions, and everything else. Excuse me. Starting in SL7, FP1 is when DocShare was introduced. For 2011, DocShare and the upload to SharePoint was brought into the picture. So it seems gradually, with every version of SL that's coming out, we're getting more and more integration in with SharePoint. SL SharePoint Web Service or the Office 2010. Jeff, can you speak a little bit more to those?
So if you are on, when you're installing SL 2011 or SL7, there's an option on your install screen that says install the SL SharePoint Web Service. Mm-hmm. That is needed for it to be able to connect, to be able to do your DocShare and sharing of items. If you happen to be on Office 2010 or higher, and you're on Feature Pack 1, you no longer have to install that service, that web service installation, because the bits that it needs basically to do this are included in Office 2010. So as long as you have Office 2010 installed, it will go ahead and you could still do it, but it's not a requirement if you do that.
Right. And it is sometimes difficult if you don't have that component in there. You don't always get an error that will tell you that that piece is missing. So you have to kind of go back and go back through your planning on how you implemented things. Sir, you had a question?
You can only do the DocShare.
Right.
DocShare, yes. That is
Correct.
correct, sir. So you can only do the first, yes.
Another key component is to make sure the application server is running. Is there anybody here right now that's currently running application server and is familiar with that? Okay, application server is a module within SL. However, for the functionality that it needs for the DocShare, the upload to SharePoint, the business portal piece, it is not required to be registered. So you can use the runtime version of application server that automatically installs into your SL.
To make it even more, not to make you more confused, application server isn't used for all parts of DocShare.
Right.
It's used if you are using the flexible billings. It uses that because flexible billings is going through an automated process. So some of them use and some of it doesn't. But again, the key point here is if you do need to use app server, you don't have to buy an additional license to use it.
Right. And it's something that you can just stick on a workstation back in the corner and close the door and don't look at it. Just make sure that it's running when you need it to run. To set that up, it is located under the Foundation module group. You would just need to make sure that whatever user you set as the application server user has access to all of the reports that it's going to be processing.
One of the things people asked, this is going to go with the question was, does Dynamics SL, and this kind of leads to the SharePoint Online question to go to, does it work, now we're kind of changing topics, but does it work with Office 365? And the answer is yes. So that whole grid to Excel that you're using and seeing us demonstrate a lot, thinking about the cloud and so forth, we do work with that. So grid to Excel will work with that. It does need to be on at least Office 2010. I'm sorry, Office 365, I'm thinking of internal rich client, sorry. It just needs to have Office 365. One of these two versions installed, E3 or E4, if you're familiar with these. These are the more the business versions of Office 365. This leads me to the more important part for this session, which is that we do indeed support SharePoint Online. If you haven't gotten into SharePoint yet because you thought, oh, I don't want to set up, you do have an option to do Office 365 and SharePoint Online are kind of together there. So this DocShare feature I showed you, the upload to SharePoint and attachments, with SL 2011 Feature Pack 1, you now have support for those. So now you can take advantage of that and say, love to do SharePoint, but we're not ready to bring it in-house. Now you can use all those great features that we have up on SharePoint Online.
Any questions so far? Alrighty. So I already got an idea of how many people are currently running with the application server. How many already have a SharePoint implementation at their environment right now? And how many of those are running SharePoint 2010? Okay, if you install 2010, the install for SharePoint 2013 is cake. It's pretty much the same thing. You get your main screen where it will have you install your prerequisites. It will install those prerequisites for you. Here we have listed what that screen will come back and know what you need to have set up. Once we click on Next, it will begin the process. Pretty much straightforward. Once it is completed, the installation's complete for the prerequisites. It's literally 4 screens to get the prereqs set up on your machine. You don't have to download anything additional. You don't have, if you noticed back here on the very bottom, there is a cumulative update package with a KB number. You don't have to download that. It's already in the package to install. Once you get back to the main menu, you can select to install your SharePoint Foundation. There are 2 different types, just like in 2010, where you have the complete or the standalone. The standalone is what's going to install your SQL Express edition. Remember, Express doesn't work with SL, but it will work great for your SharePoint site. A lot of sites that we set up and can implement will use the complete option. Reason being is they want to be able to manage their content database on the same SQL server as their SL server. Or in your case where you have a SharePoint farm, excuse me, you want to be able to designate what SQL server is going to hold that content database, because you're going to want to have your maintenance plans, your permissions, everything set up so you can access that database. Once you click on Install Now, you've got the progress bar again. The configuration completes. Again, it's a 4-screen process. You have the option to be able to launch the wizard, the configuration wizard, at close, and it will launch that wizard. You'll see that it does pop up with the message that the IIS services, your SharePoint Administrative Service, and your SharePoint Timer Service will all stop. This is just a warning, it's just an informational. It's not a showstopper. You don't have to worry about it. Just click on yes to acknowledge the fact, yes, it's going to do this. Do know if you've got users in the system and you're using a system that is a shared IIS service, they might grumble a bit, but yes, it's just a warning. And it will start configuring your SharePoint.
Now, for that, Carolyn, what are the things that the prerequisites that you need to have? Can I be still, obviously, I'm assuming SQL Server 2012, no big deal.
Right.
What are the requirements for SharePoint 2013?
Actually, for server level?
Yes, server level, I'm sorry.
My server that I'm running SharePoint 2013 on right now is Windows 2008 R2. It doesn't require 2012.
Does not require, okay.
No, so it goes back to that system requirements where you can have either 2008 up to Service Pack 2, 2008 R2, or
so the same things we showed for that, SharePoint's kind of falling in line with that. So it does not require SharePoint Server 2012.
Right, and the prerequisites that are installing are component requirements, like to make sure that your app server is set up, your cumulative updates are applied, your .NET is the right version, things like little things that you might have to go into the system manager to configure manually. This will just do it automatically for you.
Excellent. Any questions on that? I mean, pretty straightforward. She did the screenshot just for me so I could understand it. So, but pretty straightforward there. It's pretty simple to move yourself forward.
So a few features in SharePoint 2013, because they have done a lot of work on, I don't want to say cleaning it up, but making it very user-friendly. And making it user-friendly, as in your end user, not just from the IT standpoint. We've got your document collaboration has been improved. It has an app store, just like your phone. Me personally, I hate going to the store, the Mork and Brick store, but I love online. Search, it has a much better search feature, social experience for your users, and it will sync up to your OneDrive, or what most people might know that as is your SkyDrive. So from the document collaboration aspect, there's really no difference for organizing the content between the versions. You're still going to have your document libraries, your workflows, things like that. And they're very easy to set up in the 2013. It does have an improved experience in the application of metadata. So it's very easy to select and create drop-downs to allow you to search and organize your documents easier. It allows you to drag and drop, which you've seen probably in possibly in your media player or some of the other Windows applications where you can just grab a file, drag it over, and drop it. It goes right in. And, of course, your OneDrive integration. The App Store. It's shopping.
Yay.
Where can you go wrong with shopping? And best, you can see that there are a number of these that are free. So you can, right out of the box, right on the first day, start adding and playing with these. There are some for a charge, so you can mix and match and make your site exactly what you want it to be. You don't have to find a developer, because a lot of things are already out there. The search capability. It will visually display your content similar to Internet Explorer. What I really like is that it will promote your results. You can set a query rule to manage that. So if you know that your HR site gets a lot of hits on the employee manual, as soon as that user types in EMP, it'll pop the employee manual right up at the top of the list if you know that that's 90% of what they're usually searching for. It will actually record those stats for you, so you can manage that and make sure that you've got the documents they need out there when they need them. Your preview pane. It uses the, am I using the terminology right, Windows web viewer, Office web apps, thank you, to be able to view those documents so that your users don't have to have that installed on their machine. your social experience has been greatly improved. You've got your OneDrive integration, of course, your SkyDrive. You can add pictures. You can upload webinars up there, which is really nice. News feeds. You can follow different blogs and conversations that are out there. You can tag them like you do in Twitter and Facebook. You can add notes. You can watch trending, post messages to your team. You can make things site specific. So if you want something just for your financial team, just for your HR team, you can do that. You can also have a global site for everybody to be able to collaborate and build on.
So what's an example of something that you do? So you're saying if I had a question to the company or to my department, I could put a post out there and everyone would be able to see that and actually give me feedback?
Yes, you can do it on a professional basis or more on a personal basis. I worked for a company for a while that in their SharePoint, they set up a site specifically for internal users to be able to post things that they had for sale. Instead of cluttering the break room bulletin board, they had it out there and people were able to comment and discuss the sale of an RV or a truck, or if somebody was looking for something. It's also a great resource that if they're working on something and they don't quite know how to do it, or they have a question, maybe your content specialist has moved to a different department and they're no longer there as a resource for you to ask. You can post it out on your site or even send it to them as a message specifically, and they can reply back to you without having it in an email or an IM. This, you can also set the permission to where it's visual globally or just for a short selection of people. Your OneDrive integration is really nice. If you're on the go and you have invoices that you need to make sure are synced up to your SharePoint, it'll do it for you. You don't have to sit there and actually click on the options to upload the file, sync the file, and everything else. It'll actually do it for you now. One note, which I made the mistake of when playing with this, make sure that you set your OneDrive up for a business account. Otherwise, a lot of people got pictures of my cats and dogs. So for SharePoint 2013, you can really make it your own. And one of the pieces that I really like is it does have a look and feel very much like Windows 8. So let me go ahead and pull this up for you. So basically, this is what your central admin is going to look like. Now, I do have some issues which I'm going to ignore. But to create a site, it looks like a cleaned up version of 2010 is what I kind of look at it. Over on the left-hand side, you see your different menus, your application management, system settings, things that you're probably used to seeing as an administrator in SharePoint. When creating a site, you can see up here at the top it says waiting for. It allows you to create your site. You have your options for team site, blog, what have you. I'm just going to name this Verge 2014. It's going to ask you for your primary site administrator and your secondary, just like it did in 2010. And just verify, make sure I didn't misspell, and click OK. Now, one thing with 2013 is it will give you very user-friendly messages. Waiting for, it'll be waiting to update. It doesn't just sit there and says processing. It's more user interactive.
Now, one other thing to show while it's loading here is the demonstration that I did today with DocShare and all those other things. This shouldn't take long, so guys, don't worry. You can read that, right? It shouldn't take long. All those features that I showed you today was running on top of SharePoint 2013, so we were running off of her box, where she set up 2013 for me, and we were able to upload things. So DocShare, all those things can work with SharePoint 2010, but they can also work with 2013 as well.
And what I wanted to add there is when I created this image for us to be able to do the demonstration, literally after the wizard finished, I just created a site just like I did right now, and that's all you need to start using the DocShare. You don't need to do anything else. If you want to make it pretty, if you want to publish it out to your company, if you want to have the bells and whistles and everything else, then yes, you can customize it, you can play with it and really make it your own. But as far as taking advantage of the DocShare and the upload, you're there already. And that's less than, what, 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yes.
And you can actually start using the features in SL. So if we go ahead and click on our site that we just created, working on it.
There you go.
So yep, it's a little bit. So this is basically what your new site's going to look like. Very familiar with the Windows 8 feel. That's not a mouse. And it gives you a very short description of what each option will do for you. You can share your site, add lists, libraries, what's your style, your site, your brand. Under your site and your brand, this is where I can go in and actually change the name of my site if I want. I can add a logo if I want to make it my own instead of having the SharePoint default. Under Make It Your Style, they actually have built-in templates so that you can make it look bam any way you want it to. And it will actually let you try it out, see if you like it. Now, one site that I was playing on, they had a different design theme for every department. So as soon as the user popped on it, they knew exactly that that's where they needed to be.
Yeah, not quite there.
Yep.
Yeah, keep it. I like
Yeah,
that.
it's just that user friendly of, shh, wait. Yep. And it lets you play. And I can keep it or I'll keep it. It's nicer than that blank white screen, but we won't go there.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay.
So Karen, once I, and one thing we didn't talk about is that you can choose templates in DocShare. So you can choose what template to use when it creates. So we could have it choose one of these existing DocShare, these set templates from SharePoint, and have it automatically always use the green or whatever. So you do have a choice to use that as well. Or is that, no, I'm sorry. That's for the type. So if it's a document repository that you want to use as your background or a help desk for some reason you want to store your documents, that will do it. And then you're saying I can come in afterwards, pull up this new style item, make it look really pretty and save it, and I can still keep on doing SL to SharePoint? No
well, like
problem?
if you have a customer site that is created off of the new documents that you're creating, you can come back into SharePoint and make that customer's, you can put their logo on it so they know that that's the right site that they need to be on. You can add different background themes to it, add different apps along those lines, and make it really something that they can function and use that is also beneficial to you internally.
Excellent.
Now, bringing up templates, I will touch on the base of SharePoint templates themselves here in a bit. But one thing that, so we created a site. So let's create a department. So things that you want to think about in creating a department. If you want your departments to collaborate, that's going to be a permissions issue that you're going to have to determine on what sites they're going to have access to or sub-sites. You want to usually share a common navigation. So you would want to set your SharePoint site up to have one common location for them to go to. For example, www.createadoc.com createsites.com or yourbusinessname.com, so that they have that one spot that they can go to. And then from there, usually on the quick launch on the side, they can choose what department they need to go into, because they're only usually going to see what they have permission to see. Should each department page have additional pages? So for example, HR, you might have employee documents and training, which would potentially have webinar information underneath it. You might have a financial that has different options under it as well. And we have an example of that. So in creating your departments, HR, you have a document and a tasks. In financials and support, you also have document and task, but you also have appointments and photos, and over in support you have webinars for additional training. These are very easy to set up in 2013. So let's go ahead and set those up. Document and task. So what we're going to do is let's make this something that we really like. So we want a document library, and we want to spell it right. Oh, I think I've already got it on there. Yep, it already exists on the website. So the next thing we wanted was tasks, correct, Jeff?
Yes, document tasks were
was?
common on all three of those.
So we're going to click on tasks. And it added it to it. Now, one thing I usually try and do is if I want tasks, I want it to show up on the, you do a little red button. Over here, you'll see that quick launch where it's indented. What I'm going to do is come under here, my list settings, my list name, description, and navigation, and I'm going to tell it I want to display this list on the quick launch.
So that takes it away from being a sub-item?
Yep, and bumps it out.
Okay.
Make sure they see that. So now what we can also do in here, oh, I got on the wrong one. Is under site content, and site content you can get to either on the left-hand navigation, quick launch, or now in 2013, your site settings is under this little gear. And you can see site contents there as well, and there's your site settings. If I click on site content, I can add a new subsite. And here I want HR. And I'm going to set it as a subsite. I want the permissions to come down from the parent site. And again, down here, I want to display this site on the quick launch for the parent site. And my navigation, again, this goes back to that consistency between your teams, so that if they transfer from team to team, or if they are a manager and they need to see multiple team sites, the navigation is going to be the same, so they don't have to try and relearn different sites. You can just come in here, select that you want that same navigation to come through. And boom, there's HR. And notice it's plain white again. So now we can go in and we can change the theme for this one to whatever we want it to be. See, he's there. There's all your, let's take your tasks, and bump it out. And save it. So now for HR, we have documents and tasks already on that site. But I really don't need these to be on my site. I don't know about you. So we can actually remove those. We can go to Page and Edit. I want 2 or 3 pages on this site for them to be able to access. So what you can do is use the wiki links, and let's do new employees. And let's do manuals. Oops, from my square brackets. And those are square brackets, folks. Save. Now, as soon as I select one, it tells me I can add a page. I click on Create. And this is, what did I call this one?
New employees.
Yep.
Is that what you said? Yes.
New employees. I can change my font. Click on Save. Now I have a new page. And I can change the font to anything I want. Well, not anything, but pretty darn close. There we go. Now, it's very simple. If that's what you want all of your sites to look like as you create them, you can go into your site settings, and you can save site as template.
So Karen, so because when you were planning this, you realized that HR is going to have everything that every other site's going to have, it makes sense to then turn this into a template or create a template from this?
Create a template from this.
From this, okay.
Because then what you can do is as you add new sites and new departments, you automatically grab the HR, or in this case, we're going to name it New Department,
Excellent.
and it'll just create everything with that new template. Now, one of the things that you can do, seriously, is this option right here where it says Include Content. So if you don't want to add the pages, if you don't want to add the apps, you don't have to. You just deselect that option, and the template will just take the highest level of this and create the page for you. And then you just click on OK. And again, working on it. Yep, it completed successfully. Now, if I go in and I want to create a new site, excuse me, I keep doing that. Site contents, new subsite, and call this support. Over under custom, I now have my new department.
So now you have a template out there with all the core information that you want. Now by clicking on that, now it's going to default to that. So that's 2 things or 3 things you didn't have to do to start your new site.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And you spend all that time building one site, and you can just go with it. Do you want to?
We're running out of time.
Yep.
Sorry.
No worries. So your navigation and security in your SharePoint, it has not changed from 2010. Again, just remember where your site settings are. They're under that gear. You no longer have a tab that pops out either on the left or the right-hand side in the last couple of versions.
Any other items?
Not really, because SharePoint, it runs off your Active Directory. And as long as you pay attention to that, you're in good shape. The only component that I would really encourage you to do is when you're changing your Active Directory users and you're changing the permissions for them within your DC, you want to make sure that you change it in SharePoint first Reason being is it doesn't come down into SharePoint. So if you have an employee that has left or their permissions have changed, SharePoint doesn't pick it up and know it. And especially with Business Portal, that causes a huge issue when you try and move or you try and add a user or remove a user when they're no longer active on your DC. So if you have a user that's left, you want to remove them from Business Portal, remove them from SharePoint, then deactivate them in your DC. So just basically in the reverse of adding them.
Excellent. So again, that's what we covered today. Carolyn, you will be down in the expo booth tomorrow.
Yes, hiding in the closet
She'll be,
behind
no,
the big
she
screen.
won't. She will be in the booth. So if you have any questions, we're available now. I know the keynote is getting ready to start, but if you have any questions, we will stay up here. Again, if you saw something you loved, remember to use the pound MS Stein SL for all you tweeters out there. Also, make sure you're filling out your surveys.
Yes.
Giving us, of course, the highest marks you can, so you can go to the Omni parking lot,
and pick out whatever
a
car you want.
Ha, 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 Jeff. Thank you guys
And
so
make sure
much.
to leave Jeff's business card on the windshield.
Excellent, and thank you. And have a wonderful afternoon and wonderful evening. Have a great day. Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
thank you so much.